This is one of those movies that comes out over the summer, but it's a small independent movie that you know no one is going to go see, so you gotta see it the week that it comes out, or else you're toast, man.
Hello, Adam Ryan Donato.
Hello, welcome back. I'm here to talk about Brian and Charles. This is a little indie movie that came out in theaters recently amongst the slew of Top Gun, Jurassic World, Lightyear. One that I was very excited about because I heard really good things about it, and I really fell in love with this movie. Jim Archer, the director, liked my tweet today when I put it on my power rankings for movies this year, and I thought that was funny, especially since I put this so low. Well, it was number 10, so spoilers for my rating here. I did give this a 4 out of 5 because I really enjoyed this. I was actually in love with this movie up until like the third act of it because it's so sweet. We have this kind of middle-aged man who lives out on his own. He clearly has this big imagination, and it's kind of like a mockumentary. There's a film crew that's following him around, and he's talking to them, and we hear their voices from time to time. And he's very creative. He has all these inventions and stuff, and one day he decides he wants to invent a robot. He does, and that's the best part about this movie is the relationship between Brian and Charles, and seeing how the things that Brian teaches Charles impacts how he sees the world, and seeing how the innocence of someone like Charles impacts Brian and kind of gets him out of his shell. But that was my favorite part about this movie. The least favorite part about this movie is the antagonist, which is this bully character. He's this guy who kind of like lives in the town, and he's a jerk. He doesn't pay for his groceries at the store. He's always looking angrily and mean. He has a wife and 2 teenage daughters. He's kind of a jerk. At one point, he sees the robot and he wants it, and he offers to buy the robot, like kind of forcefully. And then eventually he kidnaps the robot. Spoilers, I guess. We're talking about spoilers with Brian and Charles. This part of the movie changed it from the focus being on the internal conflict, which is the butting of heads between Brian and Charles, because Charles wants to go out into town, he wants to meet people, he wants to see the world, he wants to go to Honolulu. That's his big thing. Brian is not letting him. We really don't know why for the most part. Obviously, there's some kind of futuristic technology going on here that he's able to create a robot, but nothing else in the world shows that we're really that far into the future, really. If anything, it feels like we're further back in time because everyone's kind of like farming and stuff. We don't see a lot of cell phones and everything. And that was another problem I had, is the communication, the lack of communication between Brian and Charles. Why don't you just explain why he can't go other places and do other things? There's very reasonable explanations that you could give him, and you just leaving him in the dark totally opens you up to seeming like a douchebag, holding him captive. So I was really enjoying that conflict, that internal conflict between our 2 main characters, where Brian doesn't want him to leave. Charles has this incessant need to go and explore the world, but then the bully character shows up, and now it becomes, oh, we need to stop the bad guy. And it's annoying because I hate bullying in movies because it's so like cartoonishly evil, which I'm sure there's cartoonishly evil bullies in real life, but when I'm watching a movie and there's a bully being cartoonishly evil, cruelly evil, you stop being a person to me and you're more like an animal. I don't sympathize, I don't understand, I don't get the bully in any way, shape, or form, so I don't really care about the antagonist. It's just a matter of, okay, we gotta go beat him up. So that's fine. That's more of a nitpick because I did really enjoy this movie. So while the third act does kind of turn into just, we gotta stop the bad guy, and it gets in way of the internal conflict, because when everything is resolved, they're just kind of like, oh, well, thank God, at least we're safe now. I'm sorry that I was a jerk earlier. Oh, I'm sorry that I was also a jerk. And it's like, that solved them. The external conflict solves the internal conflict. That's just so lame when in comparison to something like Swiss Army Man, where the internal conflict is front and center, especially even when external factors come into play towards the end of the movie. They don't give a shit. Like, they're completely ignoring everybody else and just focused on each other, where this is kind of the opposite. So that bothered me. That being said, I love the look of Charles. I love his big boxy body. The one thing that didn't work entirely well for me was the feet, because obviously the legs are a real human being, but whatever. And then when he's doing his little dance, you hear these like robotic sounds, and that works well. It works well enough, especially for what the budget for a movie like this must be. The robot looks super duper creepy, which really adds to it for me. But yeah, really sweet, genuine, fun, funny, heartfelt movie. I definitely recommend this. This is only a 4 out of 5. I say that because I fell in love with this and then was like, oh, well, this is boring now, because they went in a direction I didn't really care for. If you like something like Swiss Army Man, or honestly any movie like Iron Giant where a character has to teach another character about life and you see the struggles with that as the way that they teach him, basically movies about how parenting is hard, an impossible task. Make sure you check this out in theaters this week. You really only have a couple more days, really. And if you don't, make sure you check it out on demand, or if it goes to a streaming service. This feels like the type of movie that would be on Hulu. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. Like, comment, subscribe, and don't bully people.